OPM Task Force meeting May 15, 2012 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Right, because it once you go over.
It's like my control room. There's not very much work schedule right now. It's like, well, what if you just go to the home? You just don't get it. You can't shut the bills off. You can't shut the bills off. What good does it do to someone that says, I don't want to see my kids home. I to work. And they want to work. You know, it's just so hard. Don't go away.
I wish you could send the bills away. Then
You could put that vacation out of the office thing on those. That part.
You're either in business or you're out of business, and there is no in between. I choose to stay. We run around.
I'm going in the back.
Any company that's surviving and doing fairly well is already all competitive. They're not necessarily. I mean, you see all the trucks out there, and I've seen them in a long time. Most companies now have been in business to the point where this year is the year they have to buy new trucks because the trucks have been drove for 2 extra years than they normally would have done anyway. And I have to the trucks on this year because the other two are
Yeah, you wait until they're just about
Falling off, and then
they're nickel and diming you to the point it's like you're spinning the wheel. But most companies did everything they could do in the last 8 years. And they need to get in even the customers nowadays, you start to see a lot of new cars on the road. They have to. There's some, you know, most people have been driving their cars spinning the wheel. Driving a 2001 Yukon.
We were talking
I mean, I didn't find it that hard, but I'll keep that one as well.
just so you got one set up.
All right, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll have to make sure we get going. 10 o'clock on the dot, so thanks everybody for coming, I appreciate it. If you want to take a moment to make sure your cell phones are set on quiet.
I didn't know we started.
I would appreciate that. We'll start out with roll call. John Bolts. Present. Lynn Evans. Ken Frederick. Here. Will Rousseau. Will Rousseau said that he will not be here. Jimmy Fox. Yo. Bill Hemminghouse. Yes, sir. Kirk Smith. Here. And Dave Burns. And I regret to let everybody know that Dave Burns has resigned for personal reasons. So he will no longer be here. I guess the only thing I wanted to say that since we've got folks here that are who sell licensees, just make sure that everybody's renewed your licenses. They've all been mailed out, and we're about halfway there. At 45%. We're about 45% of the way there. We've got to get them done by the end of the month. So make sure you do remind folks. And,
55% of people have.
Yeah, got till the end of the month.
We get 25% on the 30th property.
That would be a lot to come in, that's human nature, so. Anything else that's been unique? No, we continue to work on things, and I think things are going pretty well. I appreciate it for yourself, and I appreciate it for you showing up here today. The agenda continues kind of to follow the same as it has in the past. The one thing I wanted to point out under 3 is you look at some of the areas that I've highlighted. The golf courses, what changes will be required, reporting, some of those things. We'll talk about those as we go through the rules, but I wanted to make sure that you all do take a look at that and give it some thought in case we don't have discussion. We want to make sure that we get some discussion going. I'm not sure. We may want to meet sooner than a month this time out because I just want to make sure we're getting things. We've got to get this at a point where we can move forward with stuff. So, and I wanted to explain them just a little bit. If you turn it over, just the 18 minimum age for certification. That's one of the things that nationally they're looking at, especially for commercial. And the other thing that we've had when we did some inquiry about this, some of the insurance companies are not wanting to insure people that are under 18 years of age. They're minor in a business. I'm sure you can pay enough, you could probably get the insurance. What to regulate, we're talking about devices and people who do not use pesticides, how do we want to deal with that? You got the bed bug issues, people using dogs come in, what role can we play in that? Vince and I have been doing a lot of presentations. One of the things that we're hearing a lot of feedback on is the state, we're getting rid of the state required when we're doing the criminal background investigations. But we're getting a lot of pushback that people think it should be required. Not that we necessarily do it, because I don't think that's right, but that we require it so companies can't get by with not doing it. Really, I just attended a seminar. It was very interesting. They talked about that. I can't believe a business would not do this stuff. There's some tremendous liabilities that are there, but people are thinking that we should have in the rules or law that says a company has to do a criminal background investigation. The state is doing it. Qualifying party, I just, again, I want to make sure this task force weighs in on the private registration. And we're talking about the state political subdivisions and state agencies with the QPs. Want to make sure we're on the same page. And then, again, I'm bringing up our requirements right, ability to obtain and broaden. I actually have something that probably pass out because I'm not sure it's clear after I look at it again, show it to somebody else. But it's an idea of allowing people in the categories. You still have to have your experience requirements, but it allows you broadening around through different ways. So that's what those topics are. So I wanted to kind of touch on those so you think about them as we move forward. With that, I guess I want to just start going through the rules. We've done the laws, and I would encourage you, if you have, I know at least one of you asked, we're not going to do the laws again. I still have some questions. If you have things that you'd like to address or whatever, please send an email to me, and what I'll do is I'll get those highlighted so we can come to the next meeting and we can talk about them or put them to rest, whatever. Okay? That's what task force members. And what does anybody have suggestions and a better way to do this and instead of flip through page by page? I guess that's the way I'm going to proceed unless somebody has a grand idea. And that's what's up here on the board. This is the rules that were sent out last week. So if you're sitting in the back and you can't see, there's still some seats up front where you can move up to see a little bit better. Okay, with that, ready to roll. We'll start with page 1, which is definitions. Do you have any, as you can see on the screen, Casey highlighted, and I think these are changes from the last time we talked, Casey, about this. But if you look at the underlining and strikeout, that is strictly changes like it's done through the legislative process, strike out old language, underlining is the new language.
I have a question.
Okay, on page 1. You couldn't let us get past page 1?
No.
Go ahead.
You define control. I hate to keep coming back to this. And the only place I can find control in the rules is in post-construction treatment. You've taken control out everywhere else. My question is in favor of manage. Do you intend to keep it that way, or is that an oversight on the word police?
We said mitigate now, is that what you're saying? Manage?
That's the only place I can find, you can find control, and if you want to continue that, that's fine, but I was under the impression from when we talked about it previously that you were eliminating control in favor of manage, which has a different definition in my view than control does, but
Okay. I honestly, I can't give you an answer off the top of my head. We're going to have to look at that. We need to be consistent with that.
yeah.
Okay. And this is in post-construction treatment.
Page 1.
Page 1, okay.
I brought my trusty red pen, so if you don't mind.
Okay. Figured you would.
Back on control.
Yes.
The definition, I think, is pretty good, but we use the term repel. I'd like to see the term attract in add also. There's a lot of products out there that attract pests. This is part of a control program. Pheromones, for instance, some of your attracting pheromones. We use carbon dioxide to attract mosquitoes, control mosquitoes, that sort of thing. So just something to consider.
Attract.
Attract.
Oh.
Yeah, not contract. Attractants. Attractants, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is, this is just personal preference. I would like to see direct and immediate supervision defined in this definition. Because, for instance, you don't get to an actual definition of immediate until way back on page 39. And that those two terms are used throughout this document, never really defined up front.
So you'd like to take a copy of them from statute and put them in the rule as well?
Should we or should, because you're doing the same thing here on page 39 where you're defining what immediate supervision is in the rule. So there's a little bit of redundancy there. I don't know. It just might be easier for the reader to understand those two terms.
There's a bunch of things that are defined in statute, not in rule. If they go back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
So is your preference that we move them over again? I guess the thing is, if we put them in the rule, we put them in italics. If it's exactly the same as it is in law.
Well, since it's defined in statute, I don't think it's necessary to redefine it in the rule.
Okay.
So just something to think about.
Okay, all right, good enough. Page 2. Go ahead.
I'm used to listening audience comments.
You bet, you bet. Go ahead.
This would be, if I could have Mr. Craig chime in on this one. Final grade, Kevin Etheridge, contractor, Thermal Pest Control.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Final grade treatment, or at the exterior of grade beams and monolithic. I don't know if we want to use the term grade beams, because some monolithic port, it's like a really shallow footer at best.
What are you reading?
Page 1.
Under final grade treatment, and then towards the end. I'm just wondering if we wouldn't be better served to say at the exterior concrete in monolithic construction. But I'd like Mr. Craig to chime in on that if he would.
That'll work.
Are you telling me that wouldn't work? Or it would work?
Does that make sense? The PTOs out there, is that?
Can you repeat that?
He's saying instead of saying grade beams, it says exterior concrete, right? Is that what I heard? Okay. If that makes more sense. Okay. And we'll look up to see if there's, I'm not sure we've got that definition. We'll see if there's a good definition in some reference manual or whatever. Okay?
But Kevin, but you are still wanting to keep the words in monolithic construction?
Yeah, because typically a grade beam is on the interior floor of a conventional
Right.
slab. And so, if you came out to cite me the way this is written, I would say, well, I didn't do final grade because there aren't any grade beams at the exterior of it.
Okay. Page 2. Kirk?
The fogging definition, I know most of this definition pertains to thermal type fogging. Should we include code fogging as well, especially with ULV applicators?
Is that not covered under other generator that forms particles less than 10 microns?
It can. There just seems to be an overemphasis on thermal.
So, your suggestion is to remove, in applying pesticide, form particles less than 10 microns or diameter? Is that what you're thinking?
Or just get rid of the flammable and just talk about the generator that forms particles less than. That would cover the whole gamut of different forms of application.
Okay. Good.
Phyllis, Miranda, it's our turn. About 3/4 down, it says new construction treatment. Final grade treatment is completed. Final grade on new construction using Boracare is redundant. Boracare is a standalone product in most other states.
This is new construction treatment? you
New
said?
construction, 3/4 of the way down, it's in a different print.
Yes. So,
Yeah, the whole concept behind Boracare is treating the wood, what the termites are going to eat. So the wood is protected as the house is being built step by step. The technician goes in there and sprays step by step.
I'm sorry, Phyllis, what was your question again on that?
Final grade on a Boracare treatment, which is new construction. I believe it falls into new construction.
Right.
Final grade is a redundant sort of treatment. When you're treating the wood, you're trying to protect the wood, not the foundation. Even if the termite gets access, it will not be able to eat the wood. It's a different style, a different mindset, Boracare. It's treating the wood. So final grade is sort of redundant.
okay.
You know, when you're treating also concrete, they broaden their label to include concrete interior.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Kirk.
Under fume again, I know this is a minor point, but are we going to go metric or standard? Most label language is not written with metric terminology. So standard would be 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so 25 degrees centigrade.
What you want to have in the term of the label terminology?
Yeah, and I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Label, all the way over, it's just a bit of a grammar thing where we're talking about a graphic document that is approved by the EPA and on or attached. Would it read better if approved by and is on or attached to pesticide container? It just seems a bit awkward in the language.
No, you're just reversing it as what you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly it is.
And then in the label part, you mentioned the EPA, but in the MSDS, we don't mention OSHA. Should we mention that it's OSHA requirement to have an MSDS?
And OSHA approves the MSDSs, is that what you're?
there's a standard that has to be followed
And
for,
isn't that 29
I
CFR?
don't know, I've never read it, so that was my
So your,
question.
just your question whether we need that motion in there.
Yeah.
My guess is we probably don't because this refers to the standard
Okay.
and that, but we will look at that.
All right.
Okay? Okay? Page 3. Oh. Everybody's looking at the screen. Remind me to move the thing too, I'm sorry. It's hard to try to take notes and,
Maybe a little too far.
oops. On page 3, right?
There you go.
Okay? So Vince and Robert, make sure you're taking good notes. Go ahead, Kurt.
Pest. You got that under pest means a vertebrate or invertebrate, insect, bird, mammal, and organism. It's a bit awkward because a bird and a mammal are actually vertebrates, not invertebrates. I would just say vertebrate or invertebrate animal. Get rid of insect, bird, mammal, and organism. Just keep it simple. Because vertebrates and invertebrates are animals, period.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, did you know that, remember we looked at insect too, that was an article process. So, in case
Well,
you
yeah, it was just kind of review.
in case you got a question.
Kurt, just for clarification, I don't know which way you want to go on that. If you made it that, it also cover things like reptiles,
Yep.
you want that,
Well, anything with a backbone is a vertebrate, so that would include reptiles, amphibians, mammals.
well, what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing you have on here that's invertebrate is an insect, everything else is invertebrate.
Okay? Okay?
Under pesticides, we've got larvicide is misspelled, it's Larvicide.
Okay. And actually, I'm going to take this opportunity, if there's misspellings and things like that, just let's do that offline. Let us know about those, but let's not do that here. Let's talk about more substantive things that we may have a discussion about. So, and I appreciate it. I know you've got it, okay?
No, that's okay, I just thought that.
Yep. Okay.
No problem.
Go ahead. Hey, go ahead.
Primary service, I didn't understand this one, as used in ARS code, means applying an herbicide. Is that an herbicide only sentence? I haven't read that 3-3517.
It refers to the weed management center.
Okay.
Okay. Go to page 4.
I was waiting.
Kill page 4. It's under
Number 4, right at the very bottom, you start going into your categories.
Yes.
I'm a bit confused. I understand why we've changed number 1 to number 5. So when you say aquatic pest management, that's throwing in the midges and the mosquitoes and that sort of
Yes.
thing. Those are also going to be covered under category 1 as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to define that as medical pests in category 1 or not? Because we don't use the term medical pest in category 1. It used to be in there, if I remember right, according to the OPM pest description, but
It was a health related. I thought.
health related. Yeah.
What's a medical pest?
Mosquitoes, bed bugs,
Something like that.
coneus bugs, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, page 5. Go ahead, Kurt.
Number 4, right of way, managing invertebrate pests. So if somebody in the right of way, like for instance, let's say the flood control district from Maricopa County, they do a lot of gopher work. So that's not an invertebrate pest, that's another vertebrate pest. So should we just call it managing pests, including weeds, and just make it, simplify that terminology? Because they're going to be doing more than just, they may be doing rabbit control, rodent control, ground squirrel control, that sort of thing.
That's what it currently is?
Yeah. For a lot of right-of-ways.
No.
I never thought it was.
No.
It's your process.
Yeah, that's your, yeah.
Because I'm not real familiar with right-of-way controlling invertebrate pests per se. Usually it's weed work or something else.
Kind of inverted pest with right.
That's my
Posts, things that are like posts and cables and things like that.
right.
So invertebrate pests is your contractor.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is I know McDonald, for instance, they do some mammal work along right-of-ways. There's a lot of burrowing activities and mining roadways and that sort of thing.
What we'll do is we'll go back and look at the categories again. What we're trying to do is we're trying to follow federal and see what they've got there. Not that that's perfect, but if we need to clarify, we'll try to clarify that. Phyllis?
Phyllis, I'm referring, it's our turn. Just a clarification on 2, wood-destroying organisms, number 6. Where does soil fumigation belong? If I do a lot of soil fumigation, is it a fumigation or is it... What category does soil fumigation belong into?
For the control of...
Nematodes and nematodes, mostly.
So this would be like in a nursery or?
Yes, rose gardens, parks, biosphere I was called in on for soil fumigation.
That's an, we look at that as an agriculture certification.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Never mind.
Some people use gas or fumigate for gopher control. Yes. That would still come under number 6, right?
It'd be fumigation, yes.
Right.
That's not it.
No.
Okay. Page 6. Do you have something on 5?
No, I just have a general question about fees. Have you guys done the math on what this does to this change in fee structure?
That's what I was going to ask.
You guys done the math on this? How this works out relative to what your current budget and what this will do to your budget?
It's close.
Close, sharp,
Short.
long?
It's actually a little bit less, but we haven't figured everything in there, and we also have, as I've stated at several meetings, we're looking at probably a $750,000 balance at the end of the year, and so we want to, as you are, we want to make sure that we're bringing that balance down to something that's not appetizing to anyone. So it may be required at some point in time to do some adjustment, but through this initial package, I think we're good with this for a couple, 3 years.
So the answer to the question then is, this is, under this, if this fee structure passes or goes through, that will
survive.
You'll survive.
Yes.
And it also shows you what the adjustments proposed in March
Yes.
and continuing to manage that database.
Just looking at the past and what the things in this. That's all we can do is look back at our licensing numbers and things like that and put numbers in. Okay.
Private owner registration.
Well, we have a rule that deals with it.
But it's not filled out with this reserved for future.
You're looking at an old one.
This is what we do.
What's that? What are we?
No, I just, private owner registration.
It's that refers to in the statutes, the private owner exemption. If you're doing pest management on your own property, or it's a commercial property, or you have a tenant or something, where you instead of getting a business license, you can register. So it's
You have that, is that defined somewhere?
in the statute, it is right now. In the rule, you're right. It's not the application process is not detailed yet.
Oh, that's right.
saying we need to revisit the numbers again. But if,
It'd be good to know.
yeah. But we will survive. Okay, so make sure you get that. So go ahead, John Bolts.
Did you guys have an estimate as far as how many new QEs would need to register with the modification to what we're doing with political subdivisions and all that?
But you haven't looked at all. I don't know if there's a way to do that. To look to see how many. Yeah. And again, I guess the way I was looking at that is we do this as we've done in agriculture. We've given a period of time for people to come into compliance. And so it's not like we go and the rules change and you have to have something like that. You give a 2-year period or something for people to actually come into compliance with it. Okay. We're moving on to page 7?
6.
6? Okay.
Section E that talks about the examination. This, I think the wording's fine. It just opens the door for you folks to administer your own exams instead of contracting with a private vendor.
Yes. Just in case, yes. All right. Okay. Page 7.
Right, for a quick question, G, applicant who issues a check that does not clear the bank, is that standard legal terminology, does not clear the bank? Or should you say something that it's rejected insufficient funds?
I think all we need to, we can probably change that, but I think all we need to make sure that people understand it.
Well, And then the other question on that too, G number 3, talk about using any method other than a personal or business check. And then going down to I, you mentioned what those are, such as credit cards, charge cards, debit cards, electronic transfers. Should those be put together somehow?
Or you think EI should be put up with G?
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying G3 just says some other method, and then you go down to I and you spell out what those other methods are in more detail.
Okay.
It's just more semantics.
Okay. All right. Page 8. Kurt?
You got a minute. Back to page 7, sorry, the last one. Joint responsibility, 2 questions. I notice in all these responsibilities, we've left out QA. Is that a reason? They're not going to be part of the hierarchy as far as...
You're an applicator then. Unless you're a...
So the QA will be the applicator under joint responsibility. Okay, I was a bit confused on that. And then the very last sentence where it says, the supervised person to provide pest management services competently and safely, that's fine, but what about to provide pest management services as directed in statute? No?
A lot of things aren't in statute, but would be on the labels.
It's either or should we just say it's labeled? I don't know. It's just,
It's not.
I mean, competently and safely is one of the terms that lawyers just love, because you can't define it. There should be some definition.
But I think it's, my view is I think it's okay.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep. Appreciate it. Page 8. Page 9.
Oh, sorry.
Seize the moment.
Page 8 under section B here, the second section, 29-107. Under number 1 at the end there, it says, if the department does not provide notice to the applicant within the administrative completeness review time frame, the department shall deem the application complete. That bothers me a little bit, even though the application itself may not be incomplete, but because we break a time frame, now we're going to say it's complete.
Yep. That's state law, we don't have any choice.
Don't have much choice anymore. Okay. So there's no extension?
Nope.
Okay.
Page 9.
Just a general question on page 9.
Go ahead.
You guys changed a bunch of, any particular reason why you changed these?
Actually, Robert, could you explain the change of the 180 and 360s?
No problem. If you look at the table 1 for timeframes, calendar days, if you look, the section that says administrative completeness review, that is time allotted that's a lot of time allotted to the agency to review the application. Response to completion request, that is time allotted for the industry member. If we say, hey, you're missing this, you have this much time to respond. You get to the substantive completeness, that's for the information to come back to us and for us to review that information to make sure that it is substantively complete. The response to additional information, that actually is for the applicant. That is built in for testing. So what we've done is extended the testing time from 180 days to 360 days. It has nothing to do with the agency. That is actually for the applicant. That's for the applicant, whether it's for them to test or additional information that we're looking for. That is built in for the applicant. The overall time frame, the 130 days, if you take, it's the administrative review plus the substantive review. That's 130 days for us in order to review that application.
So we're having some problems. Sometimes with 180 days, it wasn't quite long enough, so we just doubled it to give you, the regular community, the opportunity to have more time to respond to these.
So I was just going to suggest maybe it would be more clear if you put in there specifically who has that time allotted, because it is confusing the way it's written.
Okay.
Response to additional information by applicant or by
Okay.
Or by the agency?
by agency and all this.
Okay. All right.
If you clarify the headings and perhaps some of the stuff, my comment is kind of along the same lines, is are those exclusive to each other or are they tallied together? Because if you add them all up together, you're what, 710 days? Which seems to be a ridiculous amount of time to get something done, but
If you as an applicant take that long, yes. But if you turn it around in one day, the maximum this would ever take is 131 days then.
okay, well, it's not clear quite from reading that, so a little bit of clarification could help that quite a bit.
I think what Courtney said would probably do that.
Mike, yep.
Okay. Anything else, page 9? Page 10?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Okay, under the very bottom, under number D, or B, we talk about the QP, business license, political subdivision. Has to have a registered qualifying party. I'm okay with that, except I think we should define somewhere what a political subdivision really is. We're talking about state, counties, cities, school districts. It's still pretty nebulous terminology.
Yeah, we covered that last meeting.
Okay, how was the last meeting? Are we throwing school districts in the mix there?
The irrigation districts, there was a laundry list. Yeah.
Once this comes out of the school districts, I remember last time we tried to get school districts to have a QP, all hell broke loose. You're talking about 85 school districts, just in this county alone, you're going to require each one of those to have a QP. I'm just,
Well, right now, either that or they have to have a licensed company come in and do it. And that's the
but
only
that company will only be able to be the QP just for that school district. It won't be able to be a QP for another licensed company.
No, but I think what happens in most school districts is they are working with a contracted company who has to be licensed, who comes and does it.
Some of them do that, some of them don't.
And the statute provided for intergovernmental
Agreement.
agreements as well.
Right. But how, I mean, You can do the same thing. We could say Maricopa County is going to do QP for every school district in the county. Or are you going to limit it to how many?
I don't think we define how many.
No, they said they have to get our approval before they do that. Because we had originally said no more than 3, and then people were concerned about that, so we narrowed it down. If they're going to do more than 1, they have to get approval beforehand.
Okay.
Because everybody was kind of looking at it. They saw the benefit of it, but they were also concerned, as you stated, that, could be.
Well, I'm just saying, like Tempe, for instance, has 3 school districts.
Yeah.
So the city of Tempe could hold a QP for those 3 school districts. Is that what we're getting at? Something like that?
Good, potentially.
Okay.
Okay? Put your phones on silent. Go to page 11.
Sorry. Section C, number 4. We'll talk about schools, child care, hospitals, nursing homes. There are now a lot of folks that are licensed hospices that utilize their own homes for that purposes. Should we throw that in the mix as well? I have several folks that watch people full time. I'll have 4 or 5 people in the homes. They bought large houses.
Are they licensed?
Yes.
Licensed through DHS?
Yeah. Something to think about. That just came to me this morning, so.
Okay.
And section C, number 2, talk about the certified applicator has to become certified in the category within 9 calendar days after beginning work. 90. I'm sorry. Should we say after beginning pest management work? Or just because they start working for a company, you know what I'm saying? Because that's always been a stick to work in that category.
They're going to have to register, so we'll know when they're starting to do the work.
Okay. Because we might hire somebody that works for us for 6 months and they actually don't start applying pesticides until.
And then you register with us, and then
I'll
that's what this is.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question about this as well? C1 and 3 to me are confusing. Maybe it's just my limited understanding, but one talks about required to be certified, and number 3 says the exemptions. Maybe I misunderstand it, but doesn't it clarify that as to? Supervisor, I don't know.
What you're saying is that in 1 we see that you shall be certified, but then in 3 where it's an exemption, but it's under the same thing. So maybe there's something you can do. Go ahead, Casey.
Ken, so paragraph 1 says you have to be certified unless exempt under C. See, you know what I mean? That's the type. It should be 3 instead of C. So we'll get that corrected, or maybe we should say C3. And so then 3 has the exceptions, which are essentially in place today, which is you can work for 90 days without being a certified applicator. But it does say that the new thing we're adding is you have to be registered from day 1, though. You register just saying you are an applicator, and then you get certified when you apply to pass the test within the 90 days. And then also you have to be supervised, of course, so that we'll get that.
So again, I think it says C3. I think that'll clarify more. Okay.
Right. It should say C2 and C3 because 2 is really an exemption as well from license. So that's probably why we wrote it as subsection C because item 2 and 3 provides exemptions to 1. It gives you a 90-day grace period. So
We'll get it clarified. We'll get that figured out. Okay. Anything else on page 11?
Just E, just a quick question, is applicator registration?
Yes.
Is there going to be a time frame when you hire an applicator, how you have to register right away?
I'm trying to remember what we gave for the time frame. I think before they do test management work, they're supposed to be registered. And they can work for you doing whatever they're doing, but once they get involved in test, if you're gonna put them in test management, you have to let us know that they're gonna be doing that. That's been one of those loopholes that people have griped about, the fact that people bring people on, they use them for a year and a half, and they never get them licensed. But, oh yeah, they're
So if I hire a new guy that I'm going to be training as a technician out in the field as an applicator, I hire him on a Friday afternoon, I got to go online and register him before Monday, he can actually start applying as a trainee.
Is that?
I mean, if this can happen that fast, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the way we're looking at it as an online, you guys already have the online thing where you can go in and change your address and all that kind of stuff. We're looking at it as being a fairly simple process like that.
So if we hire 6, but we're only going to keep 3, we got to register 6, pay for 6, but only keep 3. There are people who actually do that.
Do you want to read about that? Yeah. Well, you don't want to let people make better decisions than who they're going to hire.
It's a smart way to do it, but I know it happens. Maybe it'll change now, you got to pay for it.
Is there a reason historically why you give someone 90 days to operate as a certified applicant without being licensed to the
Give him 90 days to pass the test.
But why does he have all the responsibilities of a certified applicator for 90 days? He doesn't pass the test. He fails the test. You go out and hire another guy, the next guy in line for another 90 days.
I think it's like a test drive. The first year you're going to first.
90 days, I think that the discussion was, it takes like 3 months to figure out if your employee is going to work out or not. Because I'm a very on-hands kind of trainer, and I had all my technicians kind of looking out after the younger ones coming in, and it takes 90 days to figure out if he's going to fit in or not.
Historically, too, this was abused by the industry a lot, where they hire somebody for 89 days and fire them.
Yeah.
And turn right around,
Hire them 2 days later.
Yeah. And they just keep doing that over and over and over again.
I guess my basic question, though, is why even have the exemption to begin with? I mean, it seems to me like it's a circumvention of the applicator rules.
I think it's probably a practical mechanism to allow industry to continue to operate. I mean, they have guys that, I mean, let's face it, they always say that is their business, and they don't always know if the employee's going to work, but you give them 90 days to get out there, see if they can do some work, give them the time to go through the licensing process, take the test, study, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would say it's like a common business practice right now, and I think it would be unfortunate for us to try to stop that at this point in time. It's just my opinion, so I'll just say that. So.
Henry Schneider, International Accommodations. I can't see a good reason to have such an exemption. The individual is the one who owns the license. I mean, the company certainly doesn't own the license. The individual takes the test, the individual pays for it, and the individual owns the license. So it's up to the individual before he goes out and gets a job to go out and get the license if that's what he wants to do for work. So I can see no rational use to have an exemption for a guy to work without a license when it's his responsibility to go get the license before he goes to work. And then if he goes to work for a company, well, he may or may not work out. But that's not on the company's responsibility to take care of the guy's license. The guy's responsible for his own license.
This guy right here is shaking his head.
Fred from Data Pest Management. I disagree totally with that 100%. I hire a guy, I bring him in, I do everything in my power, background check, drug test, everything I can do to try to find the right person. And sometimes that's not even enough. You bring them in, you put them on the road. I'm very concerned about who I send to my customers' homes. You start the training process. My guys are going to spend a week, sometimes 2 weeks in the office doing the study and training. So I like the fact that I don't have to register to go apply pesticides yet, because they're going to do books, they're going to start learning. Every one of my guys gets the packages to study, the training and all. And it takes time to read those books. I mean, it's a lot of time. And then hands-on training is the best. So you get the guy registered, he goes out in the field. Most of the time I spend a day or two with him myself because it's my company, so I want to make sure, you can also try to find out if you like the guy, if he's going to work or not work. Then you put him out with your supervisor and he rides with him. Well, the supervisor will say, okay, I want you to make a gallon of this product. You know, you have to, you know, so you kind of want them to be starting the process of getting licensed because that's also part of the training too, because of the responsibility. You want them to feel, wow, you're a licensed applicator. If you don't do it right, you're going to lose your license. You know, and quite frankly, I pay for all my guys' licenses every year, and I renew for them too. So I know some companies don't, but I choose to do that. So I just disagree with everything he's saying. I want my guys to go through that 30-day. I want them to have the time. And the other thing too is when you're doing the background checks currently, there's times where we're right up to the 90 days because the background check took so long to come in. So you need the time.
Can I ask you a question real quick, John Bolts, on this particular issue? I don't have a problem with the 90-day exemption, as long as there's direct and immediate supervision.
Sure. Yeah.
Every time that person's handling, storing, applying pesticides and that sort of thing, that makes sense. I mean, if they're sitting reading a book to study for a test, or they're waiting on the background check, that's something else. And they're sweeping the floor, whatever.
We'll see that.
But while handling pesticides and stuff, having a 90-day exemption seems odd. If they're trained for a day or two, and then you let them work for a couple weeks and see how they work out, it seems odd to give that sort of leeway while applying pesticides. That's my take on it. But maybe there needs to be other stipulations in the 90 days for direct and/or immediate supervision while handling pesticides.
Okay, next question. Section E, number 2, kind of a minor point, but performs sales work for the retailer or business licensee.
Yeah.
Retailer's part of it. What about the wholesaler and the manufacturer representative?
Okay. So wholesaler and manufacturer. Okay. All right. Page 12. Page 13.
Bottom section C, a business cannot be licensed without a registered qualifying party. Is there some kind of license in there that where you said without a registered qualifying party associated with the business or hired by the business, or? Just because
You read too much.
I know. I do this for a living, so sorry. When you work for government, they think you should stuff.
I'll let Casey, our legal counsel, decide on that. To me, it's perfectly clear, but I read simple. Page 14. Right.
Section E on the business license. Are we going to do? It's not specified. Is there going to be a phase-in period for this to happen? It's not really talked about anywhere how it's going to work.
Yeah, 'cause today expires December 31, so.
Oh, is this the changing the date?
Yeah. Are we going to?
Yes.
Are you going to bypass next December and phase it? Let it continue through the
We'll
fall
get them
of May?
together somehow.
Okay. I'm just
I mean,
curious.
we did this in agriculture several years back, and can't remember what we did. It seemed like we gave people an additional time.
Right.
Their license carried on through, and then they licensed at that time. So we'll make it work.
Right. It's in the other comment on that, under section 2. I notice you have it for all the different license structure. We got this renewable for 1 or 2 years. Is the fee structure going to stay the same? In other words, if we're charging you $50 for 1 year, are we going to charge you $90 for 2 years?
We're charging $100.
It's going to be $100.
Yes.
So it's not like the DMV or something like that. Okay. And then,
I actually like the fact that we can do more one year.
and then are we going, I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, but on the CEUs, are we, if they're going to do a 2-year renewal, can they take all of their CEUs at the end of the second year? Or are we going to require them to take 6 hours year 1, 6 hours year 2?
No. Within the licensing time period, they have to get the CE.
Get the full hours for the 2 years?
Yes. So you could, yeah, I mean, just so you understand, I could get 2-year license. You know, initially I'm gonna have to get my CUs to get a 2-year license. And then within that 2-year license, 2-year period, I could get enough CUs just to license for a year. You know, and then I could, so it can go back and forth, depending on how you want to do it. Okay? Within the applicator's control. Okay? Page 15. Okay. Page 15, any comments?
I'm good, thanks.
Whoa! Page 15. This is perfect. Did he have page 15?
Wait a minute.
Page 16.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Section C, number 3, talk about 24 months in another state. How is that going to be verified? You look at the W-2 forms, or what kind of proof you want from somebody that actually did pest control in another state?
It's not licensed. That's not licensed?
Yeah.
The licensure is not
Well, that's kind of a tough one.
It's, you know, unfortunately, that's kind of the situation we're in right now. And we're gonna have to come up with a mechanism to deal with that, to figure out how these people have been doing it. But if you've been working for, you know, invasive pest control in California, and you know, perhaps you have W-2s for 2 years from invasive pest control, and that's going to show that you've been working for somebody. I think that's more of a working thing. We're gonna have to figure out how to do that. It's an internal operations, but we'll do it. Okay. 17? Okay.
Section 8, I know I sent you that email this morning. Maybe we should table that talk about it, see if we could work on that one.
Oh, this was talking about what education, maybe we could come up with some kind of listing of educational things that we could do with. And I think that would be a...
having had an academic background, maybe I could help you with that.
Yes, and we could look at perhaps some of the things that I know with the ag side that there's talking about it and trying to see if there's curriculums out there that would perhaps fit some of these things in there. So there may be some. So yeah, go ahead, Phyllis.
Again, along the same lines, academic background. Part of the course I took was soil science, microbiology, and research and lab techniques. Even though it sounds sort of distant from pest control, it actually worked in with the whole science thing.
All right. Anything else on 17?
Yes, sorry. The next rule under letter B. Are you going to grandfather in all the folks that currently have a QP so you get a QA?
Yes.
And have we come up with a date for that yet, or this depends on approval?
Every QP will be a QA. Okay? Again, because we're going with that applicator terminology, and then when you register with a company, you are a qualifying party. So everyone, that way, again, what we're doing is we're eliminating the need to have an applicator license, because you're a qualified applicator, you're always going to be an applicator. Okay?
Well, I'm just wondering.
When this goes into effect, it'll happen just like that. It's magic.
So we don't need to put the date in here then, right? Or this is the cutoff date.
Put that in the minute.
When the rules go into effect and we have to go through the licensing time frame, that's when it will hit. When the actual licensing comes into play, because people have to register and you have to associate with the business, and that's when it will happen. Okay? You didn't know government was financial, did you?
Never seen it yet.
It does go away. Okay. Page 18.
Not good. So, I guess this, sorry. 18, number 4, we talked about political subdivision not register as a QP for more than one political subdivision without approval from the director. So, I'm still, John was saying, we talked about this earlier, where there might be an exemption where a QP could be a QP for more than one political subdivision.
Yes, if they get, if they obtain permission from the director. And again, you know, what we talked about when we originally talked about this, you know, we talked about St. John's and Safford, you know, they may have, St. John's got, you know, it's a little teeny tiny town and they've got a mosquito situation that they got to deal with. Right. So they could use the QP potentially from Safford to do that, but they're going to have to get approval to do that. But, you know, our intent is not to say, oh yeah, we can have Kirk Smith who works for Maricopa County, he can be the QP for every entity within Maricopa County.
We can talk later, but I know some counties like ours, for instance, we have 4 different departments that apply pesticides. So can we get by with just one QP for all 4 departments, or we just call them as a QP? So we're getting out of that. Go ahead.
Henry Schneider, International Accommodations. What exactly is the criteria for the director to make that judgment?
I don't believe we set any yet.
But you might, you know, if you're going to have an exemption for such criteria, I think it'd be wise to have the criteria actually in the rules.
I guess we'll probably do it by policy, because there's going to be, always going to be some kind of unique situation, you know, where I think it may be applicable, but we haven't addressed it. You know, I mean, we're not trying to give anybody a golden ticket so they can go out and do it on their own. My view is, you know, you should have a QP everywhere, but that's my view. I think, in my view, it's a better fit through policy, which will be public.
Okay.
Okay. Page. We're going to page 19. I'm going to 21. That's something at the bottom, 21.
To be announced.
We gotta look some of this stuff up. 22.
Just same thing on this applicator registration. Are you going to make that a policy where, since the company has so many days to get a new employee registered? Because right now it seems a bit foggy and unclear to me.
I think what we're saying is
when you hire somebody on Friday, you're supposed to do it over the weekend before they actually start working on Monday. I don't know. So.
They're supposed to register before they're doing pesticide-related work. So if they hired somebody on Friday, yes, they should do it by Monday.
Okay.
So the new applicator could ride with me in my truck to see how I do it. He's not allowed to touch the equipment or mix the materials.
Once you wanted to do that, you got to register.
Okay. 22?
Yes.
Go ahead.
C, there is no fee to register an applicator of a political subdivision or a registered private owner.
And I don't think that's, it's supposed to be, I don't think that's supposed to be registered private owner. Well, that's supposed to be state agent, state. It's supposed to be state, it's not supposed to be registered private owner, it's supposed to be state entity. It's supposed to be a political subdivision or state entity, like Department of Transportation, whatever.
Yeah. So to clarify that, so a political subdivision, you still have to pay the annual license renewal, but there's not, there won't be a registration fee for new employees.
Correct. '23.
I have a question about F3. CDU credits earned in excess of requirements carried forward, produced, and subsequent renewal period. You utilize in excess
Second.
Yeah, you don't use them all, you can use them next year? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, okay.
That's currently not the way it is in ag.
That's not the way it is here either.
And we talked about the veracity of continuing education as being continuing education, not carrying access forward. I guess I'm not a big fan of this concept, but I'd be curious to see.
What are other people think? And just to throw it out, I'm getting pressure from some folks in the ag side that want us to do this, and I said that we would look at that as well. So we're going to make sides even, but I'm open to what people think. You don't think that's a good thing?
Well, it's a little bit confusing when you can get a 2-year license and get all your CEUs at once for a 2-year license, but not be able to carry forward on a 1-year license. So, a CEU is good for 2 years or 1 year. You know, at least get half
I think what it says is they're good for use in the subsequent renewal period. So if a 1-year license, the CUs can carry forward for that 1 year. If you had a 2-year license, they can carry forward for that 2-year period.
So
the excess that you have.
Right, so technically you could get CEUs at the beginning of a 2-year license, they can carry forward in the 3rd year.
I guess if you got, if you came in and you got
It defeats the purpose.
45 credits, beginning of the first year, you could go for 3 years, yes.
Kind of defeats the purpose of continuing education, doesn't it? It's kind of very timely that way.
Yes.
Okay. What, Ken?
Well, to me, education is so important. Things change so fast. And you know, I know the genealogy of a termite doesn't change. The biology of a bug is the biology of a bug, but other things change awfully quick.
Okay.
Whether it be law, whether it be EPA, whether it be whatever it is.
Okay. Phil, what do you think?
I think I agree with him because the technology is changing so fast that you can learn something and 2 years later, it's a whole new technology. And it's stuff I ain't using.
Okay. Kirk, are you kind of the same?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm here in remove 3. We can do that, huh? Go ahead.
John Bolts. Real quickly for this side of the industry, I know on the ag side we have information coming from government that applies for CEUs, and then lots of private folks. I mean, similar circumstance in that they have folks that have magazines and online stuff and classes to attend.
Yep. Well, it's relatively easy for me and for John to get continuing education hours. I do not know whether these guys have a problem with continuing education hours.
Available.
No, it's easy.
It's so
available. I could make a career out of going to
So, I mean, does anyone have a problem out there with Phyllis?
I would like to see more access to universities. I would prefer to go to university or academics than salesmen and associations.
But that's a different question though than this as far as carrying over continuing education hours. I mean, does anyone have an opinion that is opposed to that? I mean, is there a strong feeling out there for continuing carrying them over?
No. Are there some available that a person can attain in a short period of time or on weekends to where it's not a class? So there are online things where you complete it and print it out and sufficient.
The supplier will put on a deal for an hour at a time. The association does the same thing. You can pick it up a little bit or all at once.
The reason I was asking was carryover kind of becomes a moot point when you can go attain enough to have the license completely
Okay.
renewed.
And I'm good with that. We'll kill that. I do have a question. This is one of those things that I said I would bring up that we didn't cover, which was 15 CUs. We just put it up to 15 CUs, and I know Kevin had said at the last meeting he would prefer 12, and we never talked about the number of CUs. And he had talked about 12 because he said that's kind of like 2 days of training versus 15 is like 2.5 days of training. And so, I don't know if anybody
Yeah, but you provided that with 6 for applicator per year. For the QA, you need 15.
That's what we put in here is 15, yes.
I think those are that have that kind of responsibility should be required to have more CEUs.
I guess, is 15 the right number, is 12 the number? We just picked 15. Kevin, I think, was you at the last meeting, said you would prefer 12, it's just an easier thing to.
My thinking was that if you're going to require an applicator to have 6, the qualifying parties double at 12.
So go ahead.
Norman Connolly, Pest Management. 12 hours a year makes it easy to have one a month. 15 hours does not fit into that formula. Most companies will have a monthly training that they can say, this time is for a CEU, we're going to get it on roaches or whatever. So 12 is easy.
I agree. I think 12 is just appropriate.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
12.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with 12. I just doesn't matter. Okay. Is everybody okay with 12?
12 is fine. Are we to that part to discuss that yet? Is that further?
Well, it's on page 23.
Oh, okay.
Number 2.
F2.
F2. Is it possible, maybe it's not necessary anymore as it used to be, but I just think about the fact that I'm licensed in different categories, and I can go do something on fumigation even though I don't do that and it'll apply. I don't do it because it's a waste of my time, but if someone is in weeds and they go to a meeting and it's all about cockroaches, but that will apply to their continuing education,
that is nationally is an issue because the credits aren't associated with a category, and it's and I'll tell you, in the meetings that I've gone to and spoken at, they're huge. I'm not sure how you could keep all that stuff harangued to make sure people are getting. I mean, it would be up to the individuals to get the right credits, but it's as us in trying to track all that stuff and assign it. It's really difficult. Jack, you want to?
Sorry, Henry. I think it's stupid to have somebody point a camera in your face when you stand up, so I thought I'd do this just to make a point. One of the things about this CEU situation is that you've got a proposed regulation in which if somebody is out of state and they can't put their license on an inactive status, they have the potential of losing that license because they're not locally or regionally able to take the credit hour classes that might be ordinarily available. The person moves out of state, they're in the military, whatever the reason is, they're gone for a couple of years and they want to come back and reactivate their license. If we have too many stipulations on it, it runs into a situation where, for example, I lost every one of my California licenses in all categories of agriculture, and I lost my my pest management licenses because I wasn't able to go over there and take credit hour classes. So if you don't have a proper inactive status, then you have a situation in which you're not able to keep your license that you fully deserve. And think about the people that work for Orkin or Terminix or one of the national companies that travels out of state and then needs to come back. They could be in jeopardy of losing their licenses too. I don't think that's fair. So
we also are looking at reciprocal too, though, Jack.
Well, that may be so, but a person losing their license has to go back through all of the paperwork and all of the forms and all of the background checks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just thinking it's just one of those things that we might consider, that these things have an impact on folks in a rather dramatic way. And it's a shame when people have earned their licenses and end up losing them.
I think the process will be much simpler too, though. I mean, and I hear what you say, but I want to make sure that people understand the process will be simpler. The background investigation goes away. The military are covered. So there's a lot of things we're trying to address with these folks. But I hear what you're saying. If somebody is I guess I call them a part-time pest control operator. They come here in the winter and they do pest control business, and then in the summer they go up to Minnesota and so they're not here to take continuing education credits and could lose their license.
And if a person gets extra credit hours or something like that, let them carry them over for 6 months or a year. if need be.
All right.
It might have something to do with
Okay,
travel.
thank you.
Just one comment on the hours and why we do what we do. I'm just, say all I do is fumigation. I don't know where I'd go in the state to get 6 hours of CEU. And there's really no fumigation experts in this state when you look at it, especially in the academic.
We had that problem in agriculture. We had the fumigation category for private applicants, which we still have. They have to pass the exam. We required that they get 1 CEU, and the only people that offered a CEU was us. And so they had to come to our class, and so we're actually going through the process of changing that because it's been very difficult for people to get to the class that we provide. So.
But I understand where you're coming from.
All the same thing.
I can sit in for 6 hours and learn about weeds, and I wouldn't then do anything about bugs. So.
Okay, page 24.
Okay. 210 at the bottom.
Phyllis?
24, the bottom, R4-29-210, change in business license. A, transfer to spouse or domestic partners or key employee. In today's day and age, many of us choose not to be married, so domestic partner or key employee added.
Is there a legal definition for domestic partner? I mean, we have to be able to, otherwise it just goes from one person to the next. So do you know, is there a definition for domestic partner?
The tax people have a definition.
Okay.
IRS.
So what you're recommending is we put in domestic partner as well?
Right, because many of the PCOs have girlfriends or somebody that run the office while they're out in the field. I can think of 2 companies right now that the girlfriends run everything.
Comments, anybody? Okay. 20, go to page 25. John, you still thinking about that?
I just think we'd have to, Casey'd have to vet that with what our state's existing laws are.
Yeah, that's why I think
our state probably is different.
Yeah, we have to look at, find the definition, see if there's something we can use. 25. 26. 27.
I'm good.
28. 27. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Kevin Andrews, contractors for my dust control. Under E2, with destroying organisms, if the individual has a qualified applicator certification in the industrial institution category, you're going to allow somebody to expand their license or broaden their license into termite without any actual termite experience?
I believe what we have proposed is that someone who had the B1, which is current category B1, they could test into the B2 category. Yes, that's what we were proposing.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Do you think it should be the same 2 years? Or 1 year? Or
I hadn't thought that out, but because you do pest control, doesn't mean that you know how to, identify, control, make recommendations for termite work.
Okay, all right.
I second that.
Third. Okay.
It's our turn, we disagree.
You disagree with?
Disagree with the Etheridge and the boys.
That's Kevin Etheridge.
Get over it.
What Vince is reminding me of, the one thing that we continue to talk about is that we're trying to make these experience-based tests, so we try to have, the testing is going to be more than book-based. I still understand your concerns, but you can't always test experience. That becomes difficult, but that's what our goal is to try to have experience-based questions in the exam. So, go ahead, Kurt.
I'd like to table this for future discussion, but having been involved in the last rewrite of the current exams, we need to have something more solidified in how often these exams are looked at and modified. And there needs to be a task force, an exam committee put together of various people in the industry that's involved with those changes. Because currently changes have been made without really authorization from anybody. Photographs have been changed, certain questions have been changed. Nobody really has access to any of that.
I'm sure they're authorized by OPM.
Yes. So I'd like to see as part of this package being given, because if we're going to go with this experience-based exam, we need to create exams that really demonstrate that. So,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, I just wanted to throw this out to just remind you folks that if you folks are in favor of 2 years for a termite, 2 years for general tests, essentially then your average person is going to need 4 years before they can get a QP in those two categories. So we're trying to think of a way that we could chop down some of that barrier, and that's what we came up with. But I just want to throw that out there to you folks.
Okay. Page.
No.
Oh.
What's a testing?
We are actually currently soon to go out with a request for proposals for someone who provides testing across the state on computers, and you can register and go online and go and take the exams there. You don't have to come to our office to take the exam. And they charge people to do that.
Is it the same test?
It's actually each test is unique, but it's the same test in all locations.
Well, I mean,
yes.
does the vendor give the same test
In all locations, yes.
that you do?
We don't give any tests in OPM. It's all done through this product vendor. Yeah.
The reason for that is?
That was the task force had, or the commission had recommended that years back, and so it's just gone that way. And it's actually it's worked out well for us. I mean, we don't have to. They used to have a whole room just set up for people to come in, and actually for the people here, I think the convenience has been in. They can go and take a test in Yuma. They can take a test in Flagstaff. They can take a test. It's allowed them different locations to take the exam versus having to come to our office. Okay. Go ahead, Kurt.
Page 27 down, section D at the bottom. Again, this might come up at the last meeting, but I know it used to be you could just take the exam over and over and over again until you pass it again. That's the only way to do that. Did these time frames just get pulled out of the hat somewhere, or who came up with that? Every 7 days you want to take it 3 times.
That's the way we do it in agriculture.
So we're going to keep it the same?
Yes.
Okay. Personally, I like that idea.
And we had exactly the same thing in agriculture. We had a guy who came in and couldn't pass the exam, and he came in and he took the exam and he took the exam. They just kept taking the exam until they could pass it, so we put it in our rules so people are limited in the number of times and how often they can take it. Okay?
And I guess I'm slow today, but can somebody explain to me E?
E?
I'm a bit dense on this.
When you come in to do I guess I'll give my shot, Robert, and then you. When you come in to take an exam, you have to take a core and you have to take a category. So you have to take those within a year of each other in order to get something.
That's
otherwise,
what we're getting at. Okay.
Otherwise,
Right.
it all goes away.
All right. Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. 28. We're halfway there, guys. I'm only going to be here till 2. Phil didn't say he had to leave at 12:30 today, so we're staying.
Somebody email me, please.
Okay. Page 28. We're on page 78. 28.
So section D, we're going to change to 12 instead of 15.
Yes.
15 to 12.
If 214G, an applicator who teaches a continuing education course may earn 1 unit of continuing education for each hour taught. Not more than once in the during the calendar year. Any particular reason why you do that?
I had a question about that too. If I go and I'm doing we do our CU course, the Department of Agriculture does a CU course, and we have an agenda that we cover. I can get an hour for every hour that first time I give it. But because I go and repeat it in Safford and I repeat it in Yuma and everything, I can't get 6 credits here, 6 credits here, 6 credits here for exactly the same thing. So that's what that's saying. You can get credit for teaching a class. You just can't get credit for teaching that 1 hour class 5 times to get 5 credits. Okay? Makes sense. Kind of.
He has a problem with giving the instructor the credit.
I do.
Oh, is that what you're saying? Oh.
I have to agree.
I have a problem giving the instructor credit.
We do that in agriculture. A lot of the guys from university. Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, look at Peter Ellsworth will go and give a.
He doesn't have a license.
Actually, I can't remember. Maybe it's John Longo. I know one of those guys has a license. John does. So that's how they do it. Okay. I'm on page, going to page 29?
28, sorry.
Okay.
Section E, having taught a lot of classes over the years, been to a lot of classes over the years, I get tired of watching people show up late and leave early.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to see language in here, we're making the provider accountable so that there is a sign-up sheet early in the morning and a sign-up sheet at the end of the day, verifying that these people actually sat in for the full hour to get credit for it.
It's interesting to me because I've attended several courses now, and I observed at lunch, a lot of people leaving. And not that agriculture is perfect either, but what we do is you sign in the morning, and you get a sheet at the end of the day which you have to sign and turn in that the course sponsor has to sign. We basically pass it out at the end, and you sign in, and so it shows that you were there the whole day. They could have skipped out, 3 hours in the middle, I guess, but we also, and it's problematic for course sponsors. We break ours up in the morning and afternoon, but then as a course sponsor, then you've got to have the 2 sign-in sheets, going, and it's more work for them because then you have to go online and do the course entry stuff, which, I wish there was a way we could tighten that up too, because it was very problematic for me to sit there and watch people leaving.
Well, usually when we do a course, it's either 6 hours or nothing. So if you only make it for half a day, you don't get the 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that eliminates a lot of that problem.
One way to do it is what we used to do in ag before the cutbacks in personnel, is you'd have a random person from the Department of Ag show up to your meeting and sit there. It's amazing how that increased the attendance. With an attention show or something like that.
The good part about agriculture was small enough we knew people. I tend to these things I didn't know who anybody was. Yeah, there was,
We had 160 people at our class one day.
I recall in the day, when this was years ago, you used to show up to a meeting and everybody would have to fill out their own little CEU, like a triplicate type thing, and then you had to turn that in for a signature.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the
That's
day.
the way ag does their stuff.
And it was each hour had a different number.
Each hour had a different number.
Yeah, you still do it.
Yeah. Only we do we'll do like 3 hour blocks.
That's probably the best, because Carmella does it where she signs
I guess,
in.
a lot of
people
do,
yes. I think you need to do it like that.
You just did one, so you're a good
The
person.
best way, with that comment was probably the best way, is it has to be signed by, I ran it, at the end of the day, I gotta sign it. That's the only way they're gonna have to get in line.
Yep.
But you're gonna make a mistake.
Ruth, you did the same thing somewhere, right?
Jack, you did one,
Jack, you did the
sign
same
in the
thing.
morning,
don't you?
sign in the afternoon.
Sign in, sign out. Good.
Oh, Jessica, in the back there, she did.
Okay, just go ahead, we got the gentleman here. I'll get to you, Jack, I'll get to you. Go ahead.
Larry Barr with Nose. I was just at the Bedbug Forum in LA a couple weeks ago, and they had that accepted as CEUs for many states. So they required that you signed in at the end. You'd bring your paper out, and for your class, someone with the association had to sign off that you just walked out of that meeting for each hour that you were at. It was a 3-day conference. You could get credits for any of the seminars you went to, but you had to have it approved right then and there. And if you didn't do it at each seminar, you didn't get the hours. Because at the end I said, well, can I get mine filled out? And they go, well, you didn't do it all along. I said, well, good thing I got enough hours as it is. But that was what they were doing, and they were doing it for every state. They had reciprocity with their program.
Now, what we do is we just pull their credit hours. We put a line through their name when they leave early, and they don't get any credit hours for 6 hours. They've been there for 6. We have each credit hour individually, but we do a blanket bulk 6-hour credit hour day, and we just pull their hours.
And that, you know, I think the thing that's of use to him is he's been around for a long time, so he knows a lot of people, whereas I wouldn't necessarily know people. You guys would know who some of the folks are. But I think we manage a little better with our own, just because people are concerned because it's us. So we may have to implement something different to help tighten that up a little bit. Okay? Go on page 29. Phyllis?
I noticed that ASPRO did a course on information technology and use of computers. Should that be added onto this list of calibrations, equipment, pest identification, life cycles, computer technology?
Does that relate to pest control?
6 units for computer usage?
You know, in agriculture, I've drawn a real hard line in regard to where we give credits. And if you're using computer, I know I went to the ASPO meeting and there was a guy there talking about there was a database that showed how to identify pests. I mean, you went through this tree to get to identifying what it was. I would give credit for that, but on how to use a computer, I wouldn't. Okay. You know, if it's how the business is and new pest management technologies, but that again relates to pest control. The course that identified the weed or the bug or whatever, I would give credit for that, but I wouldn't give you, this is how you do this to your record keeping for your accounts, or you know, you're balancing your books or whatever like that. So, okay.
Fred with Invader Pest, I don't know if I totally agree with that, because we're using handheld scanners, and we do a lot of training and stuff like that to make sure the techs are properly reporting. I mean, the detail that you can get because you're using the technology. You know, I think it should be counted because, quite frankly, you guys want the reports, you know, you want proper records kept and everything else, and if we're doing it even better because of the technology, why wouldn't we count it?
Again, my only response to that is, what we're doing is we're showing that you know how to use pesticides. And ensuring that you're reporting right, that's your responsibility. Why are we giving you credit to carry out your responsibility? I I really have drawn a hard line with agriculture on this too, because you should be giving credit for fertigation and stuff like that because you make the plant healthy. And I said, how does that, you know, if you can tell me how that relates to pest management, you know, if this course is going to talk about pest management, and normally what it talks about is how you can tell if there's deficiencies and how much you know how to add and all that kind of stuff, so we don't get credit. So, Kirk, I'm going to go Kirk.
On this section with these CEUs, would it be every person that applies to have a course approved has to submit a course outline?
Correct.
Would it be possible to have that course outline available on the website so I can look and see if this is something I really want to see and listen to?
I don't know. Again, that's an internal thing. We can deal with something like that. We wouldn't look at that rule. So, all right. Okay. Go ahead.
Norman Conley, Common West. Years ago, when continuing education started, you were allowed to have, I believe it was 2 hours that were not pesticide related. So it could be something on management practices or anything else along those lines. You're allowed to have 2 hours out of your 6 that would be part of it. That might take care of that.
The problem is that we have to still assign some number to something, and I think it's problematic from our standpoint. Right? I mean, again, I have a fairly bright line with that one.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on page 29, going to 30.
One question, I don't mean to be funny about this, but since this new division will be supplying CE or offering CEUs for rules and regs and laws and that sort of thing, are those courses going to have to be approved internally by somebody before they're actually just given?
We do that now. We do that in agriculture as well. Any course that we get approved by the person who does it. They get a course number and everything. So, yes. Okay. Go to page 31.
Just one clarification, if you don't mind.
Okay.
R429302.
Yes.
Providing notice to customers. You know, all this stuff we already have to do. But number 2, it says, under 3 is 3 with it, and it's kind of confusing here, but it's a specific site at which a pesticide was applied. To me, I mean, when I fill out arbor seeds today, we put all this information and we put what we sprayed inside and what we applied outside. But I'm not specific as to every room, I'm not specific to every crack and crevice.
It would be in a house treatment or something like that. Yeah. And it should be at which it should be to which pesticide is applied. And this is Vince. How did we come up with this again?
We actually took the language from your applicator records that you have to keep on file. We just took that same language and copied it over to here because more often than not, when the guys are out in the field, the thing that they give the homeowner is a carbon copy of what they already have.
No, I understand. That's why I just want is that specific language in there today as it is now, and if I put in that I use this product on the inside and this product on the outside, is that good enough?
In my mind, it is. You're using it inside a house, crack and crevice or whatever. Yeah, that's the way I was looking at it. It's to kind of show. I guess it's to show where it's being used. And again, just so everybody knows, this is the records that you have to keep, and as we understand, this is basically what people have been doing. So this is not an additional requirement. Go ahead, Vince.
I will say also to folks that when it comes to restricted use records, it's always been specific site. Sure. And I've noticed it over the few years that now it's being applied for general use. And I've never seen an issue with this, unless, of course, we're investigating something, perhaps some health-related issue, and we ask the applicator, where did you apply inside the house, and they say, I don't know. Then there may be an issue in that case, but more often than not, if they say inside the house, it's not an issue, but it does become problematic if it's a health-related issue.
So then what we probably do though is we go in and ask if you spray the countertops.
Right. Spray the kitchen.
And that's when the guy would say, I don't know, probably, because he doesn't want to admit to it.
So, well, with the new changes with the EPA requirements on the pyrethrin labels, I mean, that could come into effect sometime.
Did I see go ahead, Kirk.
This part comes up when I teach a lot of these classes. Section A, number 8, the amount of pesticide applied. Are we talking formulated? In other words, usually it involves how many pounds of active ingredient applied at the time, not how many pounds of formulated product put on a regular basis. So which way are you going? It's a bit confusing sometimes.
That refers to the completed or the finished amount, but we have no issue if the industry just wants this eliminated, because me personally, dealing with a lot of homeowners, you apply a gallon and they think that you've contaminated groundwater.
Right.
So I understand why we wanted at your office and not given to the consumer. Our whole purpose was just to make it easier and just take it from here, put it here, so then you don't have to wonder, okay, do I give this to the consumer and I take this to the office, or how does it work? But if the industry as a whole doesn't want the amount,
to me, it's more confusing, because if you say I apply a gallon, what does that mean? Let's just say you use suspend. How many ounces of suspend did you actually put in that gallon? And you got leeway on the label on that, so it doesn't really tell you much, really. So, any comments about that?
You're not in the pest control business. Let's ask somebody who's in the pest control business. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Well, it's not directly to that, but As far as the paperwork and the red tape on R4-29302A, EPA registration number of pesticide applied, it should be for restricted use. It's way too much writing for a technician. If you do 10 jobs a day and you have to write in an EPA number, and like us, we tailor our services, it's not so stamped and cookie cuttered like some of the other companies.
So what you're telling me is in your business, you keep a separate set of records from what you give the customer. And what we were hearing is we understood that people use the same receipt that has all this information on it
And
for
they
the
check it.
customer.
Yeah. They check it. We don't do it that way because it's so tailored. You could look in, well, when the inspection comes in next week, you're going to see 30 different products on my truck. And I have to figure out which one I'm going to use. And to write an EPA number each time is way too much paperwork, time consuming. I'm losing time with bureaucracy and paperwork rather than getting my job done.
Okay. Go ahead.
Credibility meter, pest management, once again, I totally disagree with that. I had a chat with the fire department. They use those EPA numbers, so if they get called in for quote-unquote a pesticide poisoning or something like that, they pull the receipt, they look at the EPA number, they have this little orange book about yay thick by yay thick, shows them what that EPA number says, what chemical it was and everything. It has to be there for the fire department to be able to pull out the chemical and find out what was used there.
Okay. So we can do that.
I totally disagree with that. We've had issues with the fire department too, and they just asked for possible dog poisonings or cat poisonings or something like that. And all they asked was active ingredient. We gave them the label and the MSDA report, and it was handled.
So what I'm hearing is we'll definitely get rid of 8. I guess we don't need to be.
Could you scroll that up so we can see what it is, Jack? Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
All the rest of this.
Read that one back.
And is the amount of pesticide applied.
Why would you want that?
I can comment on that when he had asked why would the industry not want that given to the customer, because oftentimes when we talk to the consumers, when we're investigating the case, they think that the smallest amount of pesticide was too much to be applied at that home. So yeah, they have to, but the total number of gallons freaks out the layperson. They don't understand if that's too little or if it's not enough. If they say you only applied a half a gallon to my home, I needed more.
So you're looking at this is the total mixture applied.
Yes.
That's what the homeowner sees it as.
Yeah.
And Phyllis, your point was, personally, as a homeowner, I'd like to have EPA registration number, but that's just my opinion. What was the other part that you were saying you didn't
The
like?
consumer doesn't even know what that number is.
I'm a consumer, and I'm telling you, I don't.
You're a different kind of consumer.
What were the other things you asked for?
Unrestricted, restricted. If it was a restricted use product, I would say put the EPA number on there. Unrestricted, no, just the brand name and the active ingredient, and you're good.
Okay.
So Phyllis, you think that's simpler to put the trade name, the active ingredient, and the EPA number?
I do, no EPA number. Have you seen the EPA number?
No, I know perfectly well what the EPA number is. But do you think it's simpler to put the trade name and the active and the AI on a form rather than simply the EPA number?
I don't put like diquat. I might put reward/diquat.
I'm asking this out of ignorance because in our side of the business, if I told the fire department it was Admire, he'd look at me like I had 2 heads. If I said it was vinculprit, he would know closer to what it is because there's so many compounds that have 10 different names. That if I gave them a trade name, they may have difficulty finding something. I mean, that's just from my side of the deal. Maybe different on your business, but in our business, if you don't have an EPA number, you've got a long ways to go.
Ken, what do you do?
Everything's on here that I already do. I mean, it's all on my computer, printed on every ticket. But physically, we have to write how much we use at each site.
Okay.
And where we use it. And yeah, I have a list of 12 different materials on it that we use, so we have to mark each one that we use.
got a different, Andrew, I see your face, so I'm gonna ask you, what do you do?
Very similar to that. I mean, I think most people that care, as far as consumer, want to know. And so I don't have a problem letting you know. But it's very similar to what Ken does. That's what I do.
Go ahead, John.
On the EPA reg number, there's an issue with trade names oftentimes will have different formulations, different percentages of AI, and that becomes a real problem. I would think for the industry, in other segments of this general discussion, we talk about professionalism. Telling the people what you're applying and educating the customers that what it takes to do the job is important for all of us using pesticides, or we're going to lose them all.
Right.
I mean, if people don't see the value in them, hell, outlaw them all. So, I mean, and that's a problem for us. So.
We'll work on this and we'll modify the list somewhat, but we're at least going to take 8 out of it. Okay, page 32.
Section A, since we're going with this new licensing scheme, should we just change that only an applicator with license through number 2 instead of certified in da-da-da-da? Does that work?
Where are you again?
I'm sorry. Number A, you're specifying again with category 2, for licensing category 2, right? Is that what?
You're saying we should reserve the number instead of
spelling, I would.
Okay.
You've already defined it earlier in the rule.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Okay, go on to page 33. Oh yeah, actually I had to put that on there. Sorry about that. Dennis reminded me, I'm going to go back to page 32. Sorry about that. There was one of the things that we were questioning internally was, I think it's number 6. Yeah. Well, all I want to say is we read things that said, talked about this ventilation stuff. Ultimately, we came to the conclusion we're not going to put anything regarding ventilation in here.
Good.
So that's...
I'm not qualified to make that determination.
Yeah, it was very problematic. So, any concerns?
I got one question since we're going back there.
Okay.
And I got to redo this because multi-grade level, if the structure contains a slab of floor at lower grade, okay, then that's grade level. What I'd like to be clear on is when somebody builds a home that's stucco down to grade,
yes,
I have to put on the report that it's faulty grade. If it's not faulty grade, I cannot inspect the foundation because it's covered. And it comes into problems sometimes with people lending money. If they think faulty grade means water's running back towards the house. So then I end up having to write a letter to explain what I said. It's always been a pet peeve of me and I'm doing an inspection for a buyer. I'd rather just say it's inaccessible to inspection because it's covered with stucco or wood siding or whatever.
I think the problem is there could be faulty grade or it could be just manufacturing. Actually, I got an email from somebody who said that same thing. Talked about the way they build the homes up in, I think it was the Prescott area. They always do they put the stucco right in contract with the ground, and they said the same thing. And I don't know. Again, we need to work this on both. We need to make sure the consumer is being protected because in some situations it is a bad situation. In others, it isn't. I don't know how we draw the line, and I think you have to deal with it right now. So what you have to do is you have to write a letter.
Yeah,
do you have a form letter? Basically, you change the address and say this is what.
Basically.
So I guess is this?
It's no big deal to me either way. It's just
Well, Jack, stucco below grade is always a problem or a potential problem, and it always has been forever.
Okay.
Scottsdale and several other cities allow the stucco to be brought down to the edge of the house, and then it gets sprayed on the foundation walls all the way down and even below. And there's another group of homes in town that have styrofoam that goes down to the soil level and below, and that is sprayed too, and that's that's an unacceptable condition, of course. So we've got a lot of great conditions that are really rather serious that don't necessarily reflect the direction of water travel, but it is a conducive condition to problems, and they're rather serious.
So we got to get the builders educated.
Well, the builders don't care because they get exceptions.
At least one more meeting.
They get exceptions in Scottsdale and other cities, and of course they know that, but it's unacceptable in that it cannot be inspected properly.
Okay, let's go to page 33.
Oh, wait a minute, 32. Using pesticides and devices. I noticed in that section that there's very little language in there regarding devices whatsoever. It's pesticide.
Yes.
What are we going to call a device? I guess that's always been a big issue. What device is going to qualify for a pest control license?
That's one of the areas that we have to clarify at some point in time. I think
we could expand the section.
Yes, we have to do something. I think we have to come to an agreement how we're going to do that. With somebody who's using a device to apply a pesticide, it's really easy. The question is, where do we draw that line? The people who are putting up the spikes to keep the birds up. The people who are putting rat traps down. The guys who are using CO2 to freeze the bed bugs or whatever. I mean, those things that I think there's areas that my view is that folks would like to be regulated, but there are other areas where it doesn't make sense for us to regulate the guy who's going and putting the spikes up on the top of a building. I think he has to be licensed by our register of contractors. Is there a reason that he needs to be licensed by us to put up some device to keep birds off the house? Or trap or whatever, I mean, to me, my opinion is that those are areas we don't need to deal with. But, when you're talking about bed bugs and they're not using a pesticide, I think that it is so ripe for consumer rip-offs that I think we need to have some sort of touch on that. So we have to come to, we're not there yet. I'd like you guys to all think about it, how we come into that. Initially, I kept saying, it's not a pesticide, we shouldn't be messing with it. But then I went and saw it asphalt and the guy's doing the freezing of the bed bugs. I was like, whoa, that's something.
Sure, identification. That's part of pest control.
Because even with termites, you've got cold treatments, you've got the hot treatments, you've got some dry treatments, you've got infrared treatments, you've got all kinds of different things in there.
Guys using dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It's amazing. But again, that's an area that I think is ripe for consumer rip-off if you don't have a dog who is...
If you have a licensee in conjunction with a dog who is licensed to make identification.
Yeah, the dog is a tool.
That's right.
That's all it is. The dog is a tool.
He confirms.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
But we still create a license for dogs,
Well, actually, we're not going to do that, but we are going to put up guidance for consumers as to things you can ask what you should be looking for. Some guy says, "Oh yeah, Fido's the greatest dog in the world." We're going to look at. There are standards that NPMA, I believe, has set and things like that we're going to put references to so people know what to ask. So go ahead.
Tim Gurner, CG Orton Pest Control. In reference to, you hit on a good one, Jack. In reference to using non-pesticide, we use heat a lot with bed bugs, and I can assure you that heat in and of itself is not magic. And that's a really good example of where understanding insect biology and things like that is at least as important as using heat for control, just like it was when we were using chemicals to try to achieve bed bug control. So, yeah, when you're saying not use pesticide, I guess we encourage you to, as you move forward in that, really think about the biology aspect.
Vince's suggestion was we wanted to look at perhaps we could narrow it into something that had some health-related, a virus or a disease carrier or something like that. We could do something along that line. So that's along with it. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I had missed you before, so I stood up.
Larry Bard with Nose Knows. Being a dog company, I want to make it specific that there already exists national standard for bedbug dogs. It's called the Best Management Practices that the Blue Ribbon Committee put together for treating and detecting bedbugs. It's a simple thing just to require that if you have a dog that you not only have a business license to do pest control in Arizona, but have to be certified by an independent third party. There are 3 certification agencies in existence right now. One of them specifies exactly the BMPs.
Yeah.
It's
And that's
pretty
what
simple.
I was referring to. We need to get those put up on our website so the consumers have something that they can actually ask about. So,
I'd be glad to provide that information to you.
Thank you. I'm on page 33. We'll go on to page 34. On page 35. On page 36. On the page 36.
Quick question.
36.
Sorry, on 35, section E, part A, penetration or protrusion through the slab. I know we got new language with some of the boring products out there. Is that going to, will that tie into that? Because you're allowed to treat concrete with some of those products now directly.
Kirk, the only products that you can't treat concrete with are the synthetic pyrethroids. Would you stop turning that around? I'm getting tired of you. Well, I seriously mean it. Turn it around.
It makes it easier
Turn it
for the
around.
voice to come through.
We're tired of this. We all are. Cut it out. Don't turn it around.
Speak loud enough so the camera can pick it up.
It's okay, Jack.
Yeah, Kurt, just to answer your question, yeah, it was because of the application that we saw with board care that we developed this language to begin with.
Okay, so we're good.
Okay. Going to 36.
Hey, Jack?
Yes.
Kelly with Metro Institute. I just want to go back a few pages, and when you're thinking about devices, and you mentioned spikes,
Yes.
and that, I was wondering what you would do if a consumer called with a complaint regarding spikes, let's say, with a licensed operator. Would you just tell them, we have no jurisdiction in that area because they're using a mechanical method?
Actually, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Kelly, because that's why I don't like the whole spike thing, because we actually have received complaints from homeowners that said they didn't use the right materials, they didn't use the proper spikes. There was nothing in rule or statute. They didn't violate any label directions. So basically, there was a thing that we could do about it. We actually advised them to resolve it in a court of law.
The EPA does regulate and mention several times, I think, devices.
Yes. Okay. 36.
This has come up in conversation a lot. Having to do with, P&G cans or cans that we use to actually spray pesticides with. Are you going to consider those as a legal pesticide storage container or not? Because if you do, then you're going to have all this information put on that spray can. And unfortunately, I've seen lots of trucks where they keep those things in the back of the truck. They're not really locked in a sufficient manner. Anybody can get a hold of them, open them up, and pour out the chemical all over the place. I know it's being a bit nitpicky on the whole thing, but it's a real common practice, unfortunately.
So what you're asking is an interpretation of how we're going to enforce it?
Yeah, what's a pesticide storage container, I guess is what I'm saying.
We'll continue to enforce it the way we have.
There you go.
Okay? All right. 37. $38. $39. $40. 39. 3. Don't worry, we're not going to page 94. Now, go ahead. Somebody have questions?
Yeah, I saw this earlier, Jack. Sorry. Page 39 at the very bottom, the QP shall, by being present at the primary office minimum of once every 14. Is that the new language versus the once a month that we used to have?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. One of
There's
us.
another place where it says once a month.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, that's what I have. Maybe I have the old. I'm maybe looking at the wrong version because mine still says a month. And when we met, we talked about changing it to 14 days.
It's on here, whatever version I got.
Okay.
It's on here, that's
The end of 39, beginning of page 40.
that's what I was looking at.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Scroll up.
Scroll up. Yeah. Scroll. Yeah.
And then you're also stating now that they have to visit each branch office quarterly too.
Yes.
That's new as well.
And again, this whole process is to get the QP engaged in the business. You know, I think where this will be more problematic will be for larger firms, quite honestly. And for rental QPs.
That's the ethical subdivisions where you have this intergovernmental relationships to the people who have to be more robust and they may know their own limitations and not be submitting so many things.
Yeah, my guess is in like the Maricopa County, I think Kirk, you said you have 4 areas that really apply pesticides. My guess is they will have 4 QPs.
We do currently.
And also for the storage, where you keep your pesticides and everything like that, you have 1 storage area for the entire county. You have 4 separate areas. Okay. So, did you want to ask Vince something?
No, you can't go down.
Okay. Yeah.
Jack, quick question if I may. Back on this QP thing. Page 39 at the bottom, it says the QP must be active in the management of. How, you don't have any language specifying exactly how that is to be verified. Are you going to require this person to have documentation that they visit these establishments twice a month? Or is this, or when you call them and say I need verification, they're going to type it on the computer the night before they show up?
You know, they have several responsibilities that the rules say they have to do, and we're going to make sure that they can verify that they are doing those responsibilities.
Because I can just tell you from personal experience, visiting lots of golf courses, there is no record that QP ever visited that course. So,
you know, and it's currently not required, and you know, I mean, government can only do so much. You know, we're trying to tie the QP to the business and make people responsible and everything like that. And we can't do everything. Okay, page 41.
Take it both releases of spill?
Yes, it is. And that's exactly as it is in agriculture.
Huh?
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
Is Brenna QP in there? No. But if they meet QP requirements, they can still do it.
that incident, could that be a T-bone in the middle of the intersection where a truck flips over and then we got a ball release on it? So we're talking about that and or an inadvertent application to an application site, either way.
It's a spill.
It's a spill.
It's a spill.
Period.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And for example, you know, the guy who decides to pull his plug and drain it down the road,
Yeah.
that would be a spill he should report.
That kind of still doesn't get reported.
What's that?
It's been seasoned.
Exactly. That's how we get it recorded. 42.
On A4, the amount of soil applied, pesticide applied per acre.
Yeah, yeah.
That's going to be, just as a guess, that's going to be difficult.
Well, actually, this is one of those areas, we took basically what's agriculture, and we're going to have to change this. And this morning, I know this is all new for all these guys. So what I had written down, this is me. So I just put in the county of use, the name of the product and EPA registration number, and the amount of pesticide used. And then I was looking at that as being reported on like a 30 days, every 30 days, or 60 days, or something like that. And the question arises, you know, in agriculture, we have down to the township, section, range, everything like that. Range, section, township. No, that didn't do that right. Township, range.
It's in there.
So if it came in to be problematic, it would be, that's where we would then follow up with the company to say, can we get more specific on where you apply this material? You know, because this is soil applied mostly, I think what we came to the conclusion in the last meeting with most of it would be golf courses, probably perhaps some right of ways, I'm not sure. But again, we have to look at that different definition of soil applied. So if it's not soil applied, you don't have to report it. So, you know, there's going to be the vast majority of stuff, and I don't know how many of the products, I think, based on the last meeting, there weren't that many AIs on that list that are actually products that are used in a soil applied situation. So anyway, go ahead.
Let's face it, this is going to cause a lot of heartburn in the pest control industry. So I have to ask some questions about it. Because I know me personally, I would fight this too. However, when I first heard it brought up, I thought what I've learned is to learn the truth, learn the facts before you make an emotional decision. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I look at this and it's, I know the question I have here is, in what authority does agriculture have to tie structural pest control to athletics? Does ag have, your law is very specific. Pesticides for agricultural use. It says right here, this is groundwater protection needs. Okay? So the only question I have, if this is something we're going to proceed forward with, is does the department have the authority in the statute to tie structural pest control to these same ag requirements?
Well, I think our law is being written generically enough that we can cover this, yes. Go ahead, Harvey.
Well, what is the purpose? That's one question I have. What is the purpose of this list? I think I sent you an email. So
currently, agriculture, when there are soil applying any of these active ingredients that are on the DEQ's groundwater protection list, they have to report it to us. They have to report that use to us. And one of the things that DEQ every year does a report based off of that, where these products are being used, and they something monitoring walls across the state, and they look at that to see, fortunately, the detections that where there have been very, very small. And this is to aid in something that got to a level of concern, how are we going to mitigate the risks? And so some of that would come back to where is this product being used? And so we have it in agriculture. We don't have it on the structural side of things. We don't have it in the urban setting where, you know, the homeowners apply the product. The example that I've used in the past is that, and I've spoken at meetings about this, imidacloprid is one of the products that has shown up in low quantities in some of the monitoring walls. We've had very minimal use of that reported to us. And so what that can reflect is the fact that this is a product that is prone to leaching, and it's a bad product. If it got to a certain level, we have small detection. So right now, we couldn't really defend trying to keep that product on the market. It makes it problematic to defend the continued use of that product because we have very little use being shown. And so what we're trying to do, I think, is broaden the picture of where these products are being used, give a better picture than what we currently have. And the homeowner use is still going to be
astronomical.
Yes.
And difficult to chart, or difficult to solve, or difficult to get any handle on at all.
Well, you know,
I would might add that the list that is put out by environmental quality right now will broaden probably fivefold when you add structural to it.
We're not going to broaden the list. The list is going to stay exactly the same.
Yeah, I bet you environmental quality will broaden the list.
No, their authority, that's where their statutory authority is limited to agriculture use products.
And so where structural uses an agricultural use product, you want the list.
We're adapting.
Not beyond that. Well, okay. It will eventually.
We're adapting.
California has pesticide use reporting, and I think that you're going down that path, sort of.
Well, our hope is that list will diminish, not, as we're working on it, because there's a lot of products in the list that don't need to be on it. But there's a difference of opinion between agriculture and DEQ about that, and we're working on fixes to remedy that. So it's our hope that that list will diminish and make everybody's life simple.
Well,
I realize that might be tight.
DEQ will look at it as an opportunity to broaden the list. If structural is going to have to report it.
They don't have to choose.
Yeah, I think that
well, they can get the statute changed.
Yeah, they could. You're right. But what we're looking at now is we're trying to adapt something that doesn't apply to structural, that listing of AIs, and trying to get some kind of picture under the structural side.
Let's just leave us out of it then.
Can't do it.
Well, that's where we got we're sitting here talking about it.
Well, that's my recommendation.
You know what might help though is defining what soil applied means to this industry. We discussed this at the last meeting. And really what soil applied means is AI applied to bare ground. And so it doesn't affect what goes in the house. It doesn't affect really what goes on the outside. Well, I mean, weed control is really where this affects. Weed control, who this would really affect. So I think it's important to define that for this industry so they understand really what this means to them.
Yeah, and again, if you look at that definition up there of soil applied, it's intended for application or injection into the soil by ground-based application equipment or by chemigation, or the label of the pesticide requires or recommends that the application be followed within 72 hours by flood or further irrigation. So if it's not injected in the soil, ground-based application equipment, chemigation, it's not soil applied.
Which really doesn't affect this industry at all, according to that definition.
Yeah, I think the green.
Would you define for us a ground-based application, Jack? A ground-based application, because I'm still, you're talking about ground-based application equipment. I'm a little lost. I can't speak for anyone else.
It would be, I mean, in my mind, the ground-based application is the equipment that is used in agriculture, and there may be some of the golf courses use it, be similar equipment. I'm not sure if some of the lawn maintenance, do they have smaller, kind of the smaller, I guess I'm looking at you two guys for some of that, Jimmy and Phil.
They'll do maybe irrigation, deep injection type stuff.
I'm not sure if there's that much more insecticides that are done.
Not in Arizona, Florida.
In most cases, you got pre-emergents that are sprayed on top of the soil, on rocks,
and then it's flooded in.
Would that fall under that? Would that fall under that?
Pre-emergent?
Yeah, pre-emergent.
And there's a lot on that put out.
Horizon.
Go ahead.
The first of all, I'm actively against cellular, so get that out front. But to help with some of the definitions, okay, if we are rotting, rejecting a termiticide in conjunction with the house foundation, that would not be required to be reported. Am I following you? Correct. That would be required to be reported. Okay, if we're in a weed truck and we have a boom attached to the back of it and we're making a pre-emergent application to a lot, and we're using one of the active ingredients listed, then that would be required.
Yes.
Okay. What is going to happen to the data? Where does it go? It becomes a part of public record. So you are also giving ammunition to groups that are against pesticide, herbicide use, where they can use it against all of us. You're giving them a bigger database to draw from.
Actually, I disagree with you to a degree. We have found that the more data we have to defend our position, the better off we are. Because the same groups that you're talking about use the extreme example. If you're applying a quart of Horizon to a whatever the rate might be, they'll assume that you're putting on 3 gallons, and they'll use that as in their data arguments that you guys don't have any data to disprove this. We're going to assume that you use the maximum rate, but in actuality, we rarely use the maximum rate. We use much lower rates, and we've used it successfully to defend positions that we ordinarily have not been able to defend because we didn't have the data.
Not my position to argue with the members of the task force. However, if we are reporting accurate amounts of usage, then they would be taking the accurate amounts of material applied and using that against us. There wouldn't be a gray area because it would be exact reporting, correct?
That's actually, to my knowledge, that's never happened. At least in our side.
So I was going to say, in agriculture, they always take the extreme of it. And when we're able to provide some actual use data, it shows, for agriculture again, it shows a much lesser usage than what they have been portraying to the public. So it's been advantageous for agriculture.
Big time.
Thanks. So.
We discussed, Ken Frederick, we discussed at our last meeting about if we got to file a TARP on materials that we apply anyway. I mean, the only material I remember were 2 that regarding pest control was imidacloprid and double-methrin. So if I do a pre-treat and I use 450 gallons of solution on it using imidacloprid, there's just a box I got to push on the TARP so that data automatically goes somewhere for you guys to look at. Is that a big deal?
No, I don't. In my mind, I think that would be great.
I use fipronil on a product on something I don't have to report that. I mean, these fipronil's coming, but
That's because fipronil is not an ag product. It's not on their data.
Although I wish we weren't, it appears we're going down this road. So, having said that, and I mentioned this last week, from an economic standpoint from our side, if we're going to go down this road, maybe we could establish a threshold, because, say over X number of X gallons of finished product, for instance, this is what we're reporting against. Because again, if you're doing a low-cost pest control treatment with imidacloprid, and I know we said this last time, but said that wouldn't be a ground-based application, but I'm kind of hearing it different today because you're treating the stem wall next to a house, around the stem wall with imidacloprid, for example, because of ants. What I'm hearing is if I'm treating that ground, that suddenly is a reportable application. Am I misunderstanding this? Because that's really what I'm hearing. And that's what I don't want. That's what I think a lot of us don't want to see. If it's a high value thing, then economically that's probably feasible. For low value when it's not.
Jack, on the John Bolts, on the side of ag, the way we always do the interpretation, I think Jack backed this up, we talked about this in another meeting, was some of these products are registered foliar or non-foliar. If you're spraying a crop and you're inadvertently having some soil contact, that's not soil applied. But if you're directly spraying it to the soil surface, and that's your intended target, or
you're injecting it into the soil, and that soil applied. And so the difference is you're spraying a wall or you're spraying a foundation, and some is inadvertently ending up on the soil next to it. That's something else. And then you also have to qualify it with, are you going to have a known application of water that's going to take this down? Like, are you spraying ground that has irrigation on top of it, where the homeowner has irrigation or things like that? I mean, there's quite a few qualifiers here to make sure that it fits.
Well, but I mean, the fact is, John, in a center pest control treatment, we probably are intentionally treating the soil maybe 3 or 4 feet out from the foundation, depending on label.
But if you're talking, using your example about spraying ants, that doesn't qualify. Because you're spraying ants. Ants, you're not spraying the soil. Now, it's on the soil, but technically you're spraying ants. And we have this same exception. We use it all the time.
So the question, you spray the soil because the ants walk in the soil and they die from walking on the soil? Or you spray,
Exactly. In a lot of cases, that's a fact, because, my technician shows up at 2 p.m. and you're dealing with ants, and many species, most species are primarily nocturnal. We may not necessarily know, what area the foundation going up in, so we're going to treat that soil area all the way around. And at least from my perspective, if we're going to go down this road, what I think most of us in the industry want to avoid is an excessive amount of reporting on something that's a fairly low value service. Does that make sense?
I personally don't think that would fall, because you're not incorporating. You're spraying imidacloprid, which has almost no solubility. It's not going to move. A lot of these herbicides, same kind of deal. Low solubility. They need to be incorporated for them to work. But if you're not incorporating,
I guess what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a subgroup. I mean, just to kind of define, because there's it sounds like there's a whole lot of variables here that we're talking about. Would this apply? Wouldn't this apply? And maybe it would be better if we could come up with a listing of, we think this is where it would apply, this is where we don't think it would apply, and so I guess I'm looking at you, Lynn, because you do it all the time, and then I need somebody from the structural side of things to, that could work on this as well. It doesn't have to be a task force member; it could be somebody in the audience. Kevin, you willing to do that? Okay. So what I'd like to do is just, maybe we could even set up a conference call, so you don't even have to come in, just sit in and go through these differing situations, and we can talk about it and try to say, okay, ants, spraying the soil doesn't apply. Spraying the side of the building, runoff, doesn't apply. Spraying the ground to control weeds, doesn't apply. Some stuff like that.
I would encourage Kevin or whoever else wants to do it. Come up with all the scenarios that you guys use, that you can think of, under whatever circumstances they are, and be product specific. We'll talk about that.
So Kevin's looking forward to a long time.
Kevin, do you have that list of the 81 active ingredients that they look for?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Okay, Phyllis, you want to?
Could this information be obtained through the distributors with their sale receipts and everything? The amounts of spermaticide and insecticide?
Right on the DEQ's website. It's easy to get.
He's talking about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You could get distribution to whoever it went to, I'm sure. But it wouldn't give you any information as to where. Okay. Anything else on page 42?
Fed with invader pest. The fact of the matter though is, there's 4 to 1 from pest, especially weed applicators, probably to agriculture. So there's going to be a lot of guys out there. Like for example, what if there's, I call them postage-sized yards. You're looking at less than 10,000 square feet, including the home. We're doing a pre-emergent. We might only be putting down 20, 30 gallons on some of these small postage lots. But in essence, though, you're going to force every single guy out there doing pre-treats on this level to start reporting. I mean, there's gonna be a tremendous amount of paperwork
That's
there.
where we need to come up with, I think we're dealing with an unknown right now. And I think we need to develop this so we can have a better picture of everybody's going crap right now. Maybe not.
The reason to develop this criteria and everything is to defend the continued use of the product. God forbid DEQ starts pulling out of a groundwater sample deal in the middle of town that, we don't even think about it's there, and they pull a sample and, Meta Clover's popping up. There's no ag users, but, a plausible scenario may be, how the state regulates the sale and distribution of these general use pesticides that have these active ingredients that are on the groundwater protection list, but they're available at stores. People can go pick them up and use them themselves. So what's the issue? As an industry, we're armed with the information of, this is how much we used of this product that's on the ADEQ list, the groundwater protection list. That we are not the problem here. We're using this amount in this area, and it must be this other issue. And so at least you have a defensible position to keep that registered for use by professionals, even if it goes by the wayside for those in the general use. So it's a tool, and if you don't have any information and you're an evil pesticide user, you're damned if you do. You have no defensible position. They'll take it away.
Okay, so we're gonna work on that. Let's kill this subject for now. I think we need to move on. We're at Article 6. We have 2 articles left, and it's 12:25.
I know.
And I really want to get through this, so I'm kind of looking to the task force as to what you would like to do.
I have no more comments.
Well, that's a way to finish it up.
I just have one thing,
Go ahead.
page 45, it's just a pet peeve of mine, equipping a certain vehicle. I think it seems ridiculous in rule that we have to put down what I have to have on my truck. I mean, I understand some things, but, I understand it says, okay, I have to have all my chemicals locked, and all that kind of stuff, that makes perfect sense. But I just think it goes too far. Well, uncontaminated change of clothing.
Could it be along the line of, reading this, basically saying you have to have all the label required. What's required by label? The only thing that, I'm just because of what I've seen is, I look at the measuring device. I think that's important. Otherwise, what we do is we go out and we do an inspection, and the guys go, the glug method, and that's without that. So, and the label will require protective clothing, so we probably wouldn't have to specify that, right?
Right. No. There's only one issue with this, so if we eliminate this and rely on the labels, suppose the individual has 5, 6 labels. Is the inspector now going to look at each one of those labels, which then draws out the inspection? Versus looking at a form, it says, label doesn't apply. Okay, let's go on to the next line.
So your inspectors have to do little work?
No. I'm concerned about the industry. The industry already feels that a 20-minute vehicle inspection is too long. It's going to be even longer if we have to look at each label.
So the other things that I think are important is, I think the spill cleanup is important, and I think having some water for decontamination is important. Those are the ones that, in my looking at this, it's important. I think everything else is basically covered by the label. If we don't list it here, I'm okay with that, but I think the spill cleanup, having water, having all the label required stuff, and a measuring device are things that we need to keep on here.
Just a quick point too, it's virtually impossible to find a commercial first aid kit that actually contains all of that required information.
Yeah. So we can get rid of that. As a company, I think it makes sense to have a first aid kit.
Oh, it does.
But what are we, do we have to require that you keep a first aid kit? Probably not. Yeah. So, Phyllis, you were raising your hand.
I'm trying to think of the inspections. My MSDA book is this thick because I experiment a lot, and the inspector would come in, look at the truck, look at what I have in the truck, and say, show me the MSA for this MSDA for that one, and show me the MSDA. And I would go through the book and show them, the MSDA on that. As far as the first aid kit, I remember getting fined once because I did not have some kind of vitamin E based ointment on the truck. There was an ointment in that first aid kit, but not vitamin E based for burns. And so it was like splitting hairs to me to go that specific.
We don't split hairs.
Okay.
I do want to say for the record that has not occurred.
Many years.
Yes.
So again, I'm trying to get a feel. Can we continue? Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break? Do you want to? What do you want to do? Are we just continuing on? You said you have no more comments. Ken raised the. I want to finish these last 2 articles.
Keep going.
Yes, last 10 pages. Continue on. All right. I'm going from page 43 to 44 to 45. Kirk?
I'm good right now, thank you.
Okay. To 46.
I got one at 46.
I'm really distracted.
I'll send this an email.
I got one on 46, and it's again, been a peak of mine for 30 years. Number D, you know, that if you do a pre-treat and after 5, you have to warranty it for 5 years against infestation, blah, blah, blah. I just never thought it was the state's job to tell me how long I have to warranty a problem.
I think we probably have to have some level of consistency. Is 5 years too long? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes.
Some contractors on the roof, 2 years. I don't understand why we got to do 5. I know this goes way back. And let's face it, I used to do 100 pre-treats a month. I haven't done 100 in years.
To Ken's point, Jack, most states have dropped that down to like 1 year. So 100 years.
Okay.
The 5 years goes to the fact that it has to last 5 years in the test that the government puts on, if I remember correctly. That's where the 5 years come from.
Yeah, but those requirements have been loosened a lot.
Right. So, to hang on to it.
So would 3 years be fair?
No, 2.
2 at the most.
2.
I think you're going to have a big fight with the homeowners if you go 2.
The home builders?
Home builder.
No.
Home builders don't care.
Home builders got it reduced to 1, statutorily, federally.
So you guys are recommending 2?
Yep.
Kevin had a comment. Kevin, go ahead. I'm ready to go. I couldn't tell if he wanted to comment if he was doing this.
I already tried to bargain with you a 5 for the 2,500, and that didn't work too well. So, Kevin Etheridge, Contractors Termite. I am probably one of the larger pre-treaters in the state now. Because a lot of people have gone out of business, unfortunately. It would be very self-serving for me to say leave it at 5. But if you reduce it, or if you decide to reduce it, careful. Because you get down to 1 year, pre-treatment is performed, the house is completed 6 to 8 months later, the homeowner has about a 4-month warranty on their termite work, if you date it to the date of treatment. Also, having vacated a state where there are a lot of renegade, we call them, what do we call them politely in public? Paper hangers, water pushers type of deal. When you start to minimize the requirement on a termite warranty on a pre-treatment, you also open up the floodgates to bring some unscrupulous operators into the market. I think that 2 to 3 years is probably a good compromise down from 5.
Vince has a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious because a lot of you folks who do termite work, you read Bulletin 64, I read it back in 1988. Back in 1988, it stated then that Arizona was considered a moderate to heavy state for termite activity. It stated back then that the nation spent $7 billion a year addressing termite work. And I'm wondering, these other states that have reduced it down to a year, are they states that document back in 88 described as a moderate to heavy state for termite activity?
Some of them are probably worse. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe Georgia's one of the ones that reduced them, and I think their termite activity is probably heavier than ours. And honestly, I don't even do pre-treats, so I don't have a dog in this hunt personally at all.
Don't forget to give your names again. She's trying to
sorry.
get the minutes. Good. Henry?
Henry, International Accommodations. I was reading through Dr. Baker's research down at the University of Arizona, who's done extensive termite research, and a lot of his documentation shows that many of the termite treatments don't even last more than 2 years. In fact, many times they don't even last 2 years. And the reason, when I talked to him in detail about some of the research, he mentioned that the reason why a lot of the places remained termite-free even though the pesticide was no longer effective is because the termites just hadn't gotten around to finding it. You know, just the things of keeping the yard clean, keeping the water away from the building, you know, keeping the cracks and crevices filled, got rid of 90% of the probability of termites without any pesticides, long after the pesticide had stopped being effective.
Norman Conley Pest. Following up on Kevin's comment about the time frame, way back when I was qualifying party for Mesa Schools, we had a couple buildings that were treated in a 1-year warranty given. Buildings ended up with termites a month or 2 after that 1-year warranty expired, and at that time I told everybody that, you know, I could go out and take care of that by just standing there for a half a minute and give it a 1-year warranty. That's the way I look at it still. 1 year is too little. 5 years, I think, is really pushing it. But 2 or 3, I can do it. And I don't do a lot.
So that's why I kind of like 3. It wasn't, I mean, I was of the mindset that, you know, it takes a while for things to get there. And, you know, 3 years at least, and I'm not sure what the political sense will be for this. You know, we're taking away 5 years of consumer protection if we put it down to 1 year. You know, 3 years seems like something that's reasonable. You know, give time for the termites to show up and yet not hold you guys on the hook for so long. So I'm kind of shooting for 3.
And these John Bolts, these guys don't even have some of the products that used to provide that. They're not even.
Florida was good for 40 years, but it's gone.
Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know, Ken Frederick again, just to touch on that, since 2000, of all the 800 some odd tree trees I have done, I've only had one where I had it fail from the 5-year period, where it came through something internally. Externally, that's a different story. I think the improvement in the materials we have, the improvement in application, and the improvement in construction practices on the foundation of the house made a huge difference.
So 3 years out of work. Okay. All right. I'm going to.
One question. Maybe I can throw this out to the audience. Do we have language in here that can hammer those folks that don't do final grade treatments? Because that was an issue for quite a long time. The full pre-treatment really isn't done. And I don't know how we go about that. You know, how do you as an agency enforce that final? Now, granted, the situation with the homeowner won't let you on the property, you can't do it, et cetera, but a lot of times people just kind of forget about it and walk away. I don't know how to address that.
Yeah, Kirk, essentially one of the tools that we would use to determine if final grades were done was the TARP database.
Right.
If a person submitted a TARP for pre-treatment, TARP database would let us know whether or not the individual submitted or performed the final grade. Another form that we would use is the complaint process, because oftentimes a consumer will call and say, the company's been out here 3 times, I still have termites. During the course of the investigation, then we learned the company never did the final grade. So, so those are 2 forms that we use in order to make that determination. And we do have a statute that states that the final grade should be done within 360 days of the pre-treatment. However, as some individuals I mentioned, there are custom homes. There are homes that a person may start building, may not even be complete for a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years, and if that's the case, then they should contact us to apply for a waiver. So perhaps what we should do is perhaps consider looking at some sort of language for a waiver in the event that they cannot complete the home within 360 days.
So did anybody else want to respond to Kirk's question, or is it not as big of an issue anymore? Not seeing people talking about problems. You know, that's what time does. People get tired, right? Next time we're going to sit here for 3 hours, and then we're going to go into this stuff. Okay, going to 47. Going to page 48. To page 49. Just 1 second here.
No, I'm good.
50?
Going one.
Okay.
51.
Going to 50. 51. 52. 53. At bottom of 53. You got something? Okay. Going to 54.
I do have one question, Zach, sorry. Often throughout here, we talk about that if we can't do something, that you're going to require written notification. Is that still in a mail letter format, or will it
No,
be
email works.
email as well?
Yes,
As well? So
email works. And Vince?
I did want to mention to some of you folks, because I don't know everyone that have a concern about it, but we have received some concerns here on page 54 about letter C, about the providing records within an hour. And I do want you folks to know that that was actually taken from our current rule. It's actually on page 49. It's actually scratched out. And I do want you folks to understand that this is only when it's a risk to an individual's health or safety, and it wouldn't be us as inspectors making that call. You know, saying, oh, well, this is a risk to your health, I want those records right now. We would actually rely upon those experts that can make the determination for health or safety in order to make the determination if you need those records.
The bottom line is no change from what we had in the past. Okay. All right, that's the end of this stuff. So that's where we're going to stop. Jimmy's going. Thank goodness. We have to look at setting up another meeting. We will work on making the changes that we've got that we discussed here today. And if somebody wants to send in emails, you know, there's grammatical or things that I've forgotten. I mean, I'm trying to take notes as I'm doing this as well, and we've got everybody take notes, and sometimes we miss it. So if there's something that we've forgotten or we haven't looked at, please get something to us. I'm going to still move on to the agenda. I'm just saying we're going to put this up. So you had the topic agenda, things that I wanted to us to think about. We'll move into that the next meeting.
Have you had any discussion? I know we've had golfers who come up and talk to that industry. I've heard from cotton cattle, they do not have an issue with it.
Going ahead. And I spoke to that industry, and they are adamant the fact that they want to come under the Department of Agriculture. I'm not sure, my guess is they don't want to have a qualifying party, they don't want to have they only want to have a certified applicator for using restricted use pesticides, which is the way it is in agriculture. I'm not sure if that's what what they're after, or if it's just, I know the equipment was what they said, the equipment's exactly the same as agriculture for the most part. So.
Would it be easier too if they went to ag with the groundwater issue as well? Because a lot of what they use is aggravated to begin with.
It might.
And that would take away a lot of the structural stuff. So.
Yes, it might.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we have is calls of the public. Oh, no, go ahead.
Would it not be good for you to put a small subgroup together to get with Cactus and Pine and then have the report back here like you did on the other subject?
I think we can deal with it. I don't think we need it. It's not a cumbersome. I mean, it's not a complicated issue. I think all we need to do is draft language that says certain things. You know, it would actually require a change under the ag statute is what we. I think if we remember correctly, we'd have to actually have some change to the agriculture's laws to say that it includes golf courses.
I would just make sure you're working with they have an established industry group with staff and try to talk
Okay.
with them at some point. I
Yep.
think
Oh,
they
yeah.
would like that.
I want to keep you in the dark.
Not me.
Sure.
But thanks, Jack.
Cheryl
Oh,
Gore is from the
Cheryl.
Nursery Association.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay. Anybody else with any of the stuff, these points that I had here before we go to the call to the public? If not, I'm going to go to the call to the public. Again, time plays a good role in this. Seeing none with the call to the public, we need to look at it now, another meeting. I know it's killing people. So today's the 15th. I guess I'm trying to decide what people think. I'd like to.
You said more than once a month, didn't you?
Yeah.
Every 3 weeks?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Could we do something like the? No. Put on that.
Financial, 13.
Yeah, I'm on stage. 13. So like the 11th, 12th, or 13th, somewhere in there. 13th?
I'm good.
I have to speak at something at 1:30 in the afternoon. We'd have to be done.
Oh, there you go. Let's start at noon. 13. We'll start at noon.
John, are you shaking your head? No, that doesn't work?
13th is fine.
12th works better for me.
Is that Tuesday?
That's it for me. Tuesday.
12 to 13. 13.
13th, so we'll start at 7 a.m. That was a joke.
What do you have to speak at 1:30?
Talking stick. So let's I'm looking at John going, let's start at
Start the meeting early.
9:30. It's only half an hour earlier.
9.
9?
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Right now, I'm coming in after rush hour. I'll just have to be with
Plane gets here.
So 9 a.m.
Yeah, that's fine.
9 a.m.
That's a little rush hour.
on Wednesday, July 13th.
That's rush hour.
Excuse me, June 13th.
Jack, 9 o'clock is at rush hour.
Okay? So 9 a.m. on June 13th. You guys have an issue? Oh, yeah, actually, no.
Is he okay with that?
He's
got no.
No, if he has plans, he can't be here. I mean, we just have to look at reality. People can't be here, can't be here. Vince, you may speak that morning or that day. He's speaking at the same thing I am, only on another subject at another time. So, but we'll just do it. 9 a.m., June 13th. Again, I thank everybody for sticking around, providing your input. Again, if you have additional comments that you want to get to me, please do. Our email addresses are up on the web. Committee members, again, if they send an email to all of us, please make sure you don't respond to all, because we have to have our conversations in public. So with that, have a great day. Thank you very much. Yes.